Welcome to the Writer Reads Fate in the Sun, Part 3. Peachy glanced at Layla. I believe it's time for us to contact the colony, he said, and Layla gasped. The news had come as a surprise, but Peachy kept talking. We need to move our operations up a level, Miranda. We'll need a complete debrief. He paused as I swayed on my feet. Layla caught it too. Maybe when she's rested, she suggested. Her next question, how far did you run? Was something I heard through a growing fog as I sat down on the floor. 24 hours plus a bit Geordie and I had spent on the move. Even I had my limits. I wasn't much help as they got me into the bunk above Geordie's. Didn't even hear them leave as I plunged into sleep. Felt like something had curled up and died in my mouth when I awoke, 36 hours later. There had to have been sensors in the cabin because Layla and Peachy were waiting when I stepped out of the shower. Lucky I was sharing the cabin with Geordie and had found a pair of coveralls in the closet at the end of the bunk. At least I was dressed when I answered the door. Debrief? I asked, not stopping as I opened the windows for when Geordie woke up, and then I worked my way around the kitchenette. I found a few more things. Coffee? I'd heard of it. It hadn't been considered a colony essential, and the grown-ups had whined about it running out. Milk? Hadn't been much of that either, but Layla had stocked in the usual shroom teas, which didn't need it. I selected one of those, then took one of the big blue fungi out of the pantry and found a fry pan. Peachy wrinkled his nose, and I ignored him, slicing the shroom into steaks and pulling out the jar of tark fat that was in the fridge. It didn't take too long to cook, and Geordie was up and in the bathroom before I was done, so I cooked him a couple of shroom steaks as well. They were done by the time he was out and looking a lot more awake. So, he said, settling down beside me on one side of the table, accepting the plate of shroom and cup of tea I'd set there. Where we at? Miranda was just going to debrief us, Peachy told him, taking a seat opposite. It didn't seem like he wanted to wait, so I filled him in between mouthfuls. Man didn't want to give me time to eat, man was just going to have to put up with it. Geordie didn't say a word, just ate his steaks while I talked. I think he knew what was coming when I was done. And you? Peachy asked. I finished off my breakfast and cleared our plates while Geordie spoke. By the time he was done, the dishes were clean again, and I'd made shroom tea all around. He picked up his cup shortly after I'd sat down. So you can both sense when the interdimensionals are on their way, Peachy said, and his change of topic startled me. I must have looked as surprised as I felt, because Layla laid a hand on Peachy's wrist and he stopped. Let me take over, she said, and I knew I wasn't going to like what was coming next. I was right. I sat opposite Layla and I wondered how far and how fast she'd fallen in a few short months. And then I took a strong grip on my temper and tried to make sure I'd heard right. Let me get this straight, I said, looking from Peachy to Layla and deliberately avoiding Geordie's eyes. You want me and Geordie here to have a baby. They nodded, but I kept going, struggling to keep my voice calm as I did so. Because you want some kind of early warning system on your ships, and you haven't devised a computer alternative yet. And I raised a hand as they both opened their mouths to respond. And because I've got the ability to deal with confined spaces, which Geordie hasn't, but because we're both sensitive, you want us to make a baby that might be stronger than either of us. Now I waited for their response. In the end, it was Peachy who replied. Essentially, yes, he said. You can't do a gene splice for the desired traits? I asked. We haven't isolated the right genes, and that work will take months, if not years, Peachy replied. A baby might be faster. I take it you don't just want one, I said, and this time I did glance at Geordie. Poor guy. His head was bowed, his chin tucked, and his ears were so red I figured there might be a real danger they'd set his hair alight. We don't need to have sex, he muttered. They could artificially inseminate. Damn, he found this as bad an idea as I did. Peachy looked from me to Geordie and then spread his hands in appeal. It's only one child, he said. You don't even have to raise it or see each other afterwards. At this, Layla cleared her throat and Peachy rolled his eyes. Fine. You might have to see each other given how small this colony is right now, but you needn't establish a permanent relationship. And that was when the pieces started to fit together. We're not contracted to you, I said. Not a single one of us. You raised part of the stake to get the colony started, but I bet you weren't the only ones. And I'm betting you never consulted with your partners about what you'd found or where, did you? What are they going to say if I ask them what they think? We bought them out. Well, there went that idea. Peachy didn't give me a chance to recover. He kept on. They didn't understand why we'd want the place, given the level of interdimensional activity and the loss of comms. They figured the colony was down. We gave them time to try and get in touch and to investigate the world, but they couldn't see where the profit was. So we dangled a few juicy territorial rights in front of them and they jumped at the exchange. My heart sank. So we're on our own then. Peachy tried for a reassuring smile. No, you've still got us. Uh-huh. How come the others didn't get our signals and you did? The others didn't fly down to the settlement until after we'd moved it, and the rocks block comm signals just as well as they block scans, or whatever it is the interdimensionals use to find your surface folk. After the first raid took out their primary expeditions, the other companies decided they didn't need the hassle. They left us. It was not a nice conclusion to arrive at, but someone had to say it. I figured I might as well extrapolate on it. And then they sold us out. Peachy gave me a gentle smile. Something like that. That doesn't mean we're your belongings, I said. Each and every one of us should have a contract. What makes you think they'd be worth the paper they were written on? Even Halcyon likes to appear above board, I said, praying it was true, but not letting an ounce of doubt show in my voice or my face. True, he said, and the breeding program would work a lot better with willing participants. I grimaced. I hadn't thought I was going to get out of this one, but at least they were coming to the table. From the look on Layla's face, she hadn't thought to fight. I sure as hell hoped she hadn't signed anything yet. You're set on the breeding program? I asked, my throat tight. Until we get the genetics sorted, he said. And the kids will be their own people, I pressed, not company slaves. No more than anyone else, he said, a sly smile playing around his lips and then growing serious. Fine. The children grow up free citizens. We set up communal care for those whose parents don't feel they can do the parenting and for those parents we call into service in space. At this, Geordie shifted uneasily beside me. I laid a hand on his thigh and he stilled. And no one goes into space without testing to make sure they can cope with ship life. Right? Agreed. And Halcyon makes sure the industries they need operate from this world. He opened his mouth to argue, but I ploughed on. It's got to be cheaper than shipping the ore off-world, right? Some of it, he admitted, but there's also shipping the other materials in that we've got to consider. The interdimensionals aren't going to let you process it without interference once they figure out what you're doing, I added. And this world has the largest supply of rock for safeguarding your manufacturing and research facilities until you get the process right. Not to mention the ideas the colonists have been developing in the hopes of attracting investment to this world. They've what? The colonists? My parents? My teachers? Pretty much anyone who remembers what it was like to live on other worlds, who had hopes of building a future here? They've all got ideas for things to bring investors here, and Halcyon's on the ground first. We're all going to need help to get started, and at least your labour force has saved you the cost of building accommodations in the more secure parts. I stopped then, partly because Peachy was staring at me as though I'd grown an extra head, and partly because I'd run out of things to say. Either way, now seemed like a good place to take a breath. You're not a lawyer, are you? He asked. I've studied some, I said. Results would have to be verified by the institutions that gave us the software, but yeah, in between guiding, I studied law. Wanted to be useful to the businesses my folks wanted to build. So you've got a handle on IP law? A bit. Contractual law? Some. We're still going to need you to contribute to the gene pool. I risked a sideways glance at Geordie. From the look of it, he was pretending he wasn't there. Sure, I said, and watched the tips of Geordie's ears turn red again. From there, our conversation turned to contacting the main colony.